It's been a long time that I've streamed, but here we are. Let's do this, right? First let's check if stuff works. Let's open Photoshop up. Let's check the volume. I think the volume is good. So we're gonna read the Cyberiad in this one, and before reading it, I need to make some style changes. That was my blog, by the way, Square Zero. This way it's way better to not strain my eyes. And we're gonna read. I do not know what we're gonna read, but before reading anything, come on, yeah, this is the one. I wanted to read this so bad. Yeah, this is the one. The first Sally. We're gonna read this, and before doing that, I'm just gonna rename it. Can I not rename it? I can, of course I can. The first Sally. Alright, we're gonna do this. And before anything else, we're gonna first create a thumbnail, because the thumbnail is really important. I already have a picture lined up. I'm just gonna download that, and we're gonna use that picture. It's from ArtStation. I need to create the artist. Let's do that sometime, but for now, let's just download the picture. You know what I'm saying? What's more important right now? It's starting the stream right away. Let's do this. And for that, we're gonna have to create a thumbnail. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna create a bloody good thumbnail, because thumbnail has to be intriguing. It has to be exciting, isn't it? So it's a giant colossal robot by Mike Peretti. It is quite popular on ArtStation. Alright, so we have this picture. So I chose this picture because it's a giant robot, and Cyberiad has a lot of giant robots, some of them stupid, but others not so much. We're gonna use this. We're gonna go to camera raw filter. Basically, we want this image to pop. Basically, when it's in thumbnail mode, I want it to pop. So what we're gonna do first is increase the clarity. We're gonna increase the vibrance of it. We're gonna increase the contrast. Nah, not so much. Nah. And we're gonna color correct this. We're gonna reduce the noise on this one. Yeah, so we've done that. What else? We want this to pop, basically. So what we're gonna give it a tone. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna give it tone. So highlights, I want it to be red. So red is popping now. Let's zoom this out. I think the original picture was way better, I guess. It is, but it's not good for thumbnails. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write the words. By stains all them. Why am I applying that? Alright, we're gonna increase the font size a lot so that this will be visible properly. And we're gonna give it some background. We're not gonna leave it like this. I'm just gonna call it FCX. I want to name it FX, but it's fine. Whatever it takes to make it fast. And we're basically gonna fill this up with some blacks. Yep, just like that. Maybe make it a little bigger, because we want this to be nicely visible on the thumbnails. So we're gonna do that and bring it down a notch. Yeah, basically just paste it up there, and we're gonna bring the text here and try to increase the size even further. Yeah, just like that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not bad, but at the same time it's not good. So what we have to do here is make this come here, bring this here, maybe make this light instead of thin. This is good, but it's not peppy. It doesn't have sass, I would say. What do we have to do about that? Not sure. This is how big it's gonna be. Before that, live control room, concurrent viewers 1, I'm that viewer. Let's listen to it. What do we have to do about that? Not sure. This is good. That's me, I'm looking at myself. Okay, we're gonna have to sass this up. I wanna sass this up. Sass this up. What do we do for that? I don't know. Let's save this for now. We're gonna save it to DBC because that's where I work. That's where I work. Nah, we're gonna create a folder first. It's for the channel, Cyberiad. And we're gonna save it as a JPEG. The Cyberiad. Make it 605 KB, not a big deal. We could do that. And we're gonna change the thumbnail right away. We're gonna make it this. Where is it? Oh yeah. It doesn't look half bad. It's good. It's good. It's not bad at all. So now that we've got the thumbnail right, let's go ahead and read this. I read this chapter, half of it. But I wanted to finish it. I wanted to do it on a live stream because this was so good, and I wanted everyone to experience how good the book is, especially this chapter. So let's do this. Let me look at myself. Let me see if I'm visible. Of course I am. There's my face. There's my face right there. The first Sally are, first of all, to avoid any possible misunderstanding, we should state that this was, strictly speaking, a sally to nowhere. In fact, Troll never left his house throughout it, except for a few trips to the hospital and an unimportant excursion to some asteroid. Yet, in a deeper and/or higher sense, this is one of the farthest sallies ever undertaken by the famed constructor, for it very nearly took him beyond the realm of possibility. Troll had once had the misfortune to build an enormous calculating machine that was capable of only one operation, namely the addition of 2 and 2, and that it did incorrectly. As is related earlier in this volume, the machine also proved to be extremely stubborn, and the quarrel that ensued between it and its creator almost cost the latter his life. From that time on, Copatius teased Troll unmercifully, making comments at every opportunity until Troll decided to silence him for once and for all by building a machine that could write properly poetry. First, Troll collected 820 tons of books on cybernetics and 12,000 tons of the finest poetry, then sat down to read it all. Whenever he felt he couldn't take another chart or equation, he would switch over to verse and vice versa. After a while, it became clear to him that the construction of the machine itself was child's play in comparison with the writing of the program. The program found in the head of an average poet, after all, was written by the poet's civilization, and that civilization was in turn programmed by the civilization that preceded it, and so on to the very dawn of time, when those bits of information that concerned the poet to be were still swirling about in the primordial chaos of the cosmic deep. Hence, in order to program a poetry machine, one would first have to repeat the entire universe from the beginning, or at least a good piece of it. Anyone else in Troll's place would have given up then and there, but our intrepid constructor was nothing daunted. He built a machine and fashioned the digital model of the void, an electrostatic spirit to move upon the face of the electrolytic waters, and he introduced the parameter of light, progalactic cloud or two, and by degrees worked his way up to the first ice age. Troll could move at this rate because his machine was able in 1/5 billionth of a second to simulate 100 septillion events at 40 octillion different locations simultaneously. And if anyone questions these figures, let him work it out for himself. Next, Troll began to model civilization, the striking of fires with flints and the tanning of hides, and he provided for dinosaurs and floods, bipedality and taillessness, then made the paleface, which begat the paleface, which begat the gadget, and so it went from eon to millennium in the endless hum of electrical currents and eddies. Often the machine turned out to be too small for the computer simulation of a new epoch, and Troll would have to tack on an auxiliary unit until he ended up at least with a veritable metropolis of tubes and terminals, circuits and shunts, also tangled and involved that the devil himself couldn't have made head or tail of it. But Troll managed somehow. He only had to go back twice. Once almost to the beginning when he discovered that Abel had murdered Cain and not Cain Abel, the result apparently of a defective fuse. And once only 300 million years back to the middle of Mesozoic, when after going from fish to amphibian to reptile to mammal, something odd took place among the primates, and instead of great apes, he came out with great grapes. A fly, it seems, had gotten into the machine and shorted out the polyphase step-down directional widget. Otherwise, everything went like a dream. Antiquity and the Middle Ages were recreated, the period of revolutions and reforms, which gave the machine a few nasty jolts, and then civilization progressed in such leaps and bounds that Troll had to hose down the coils and cores repeatedly to keep them from overheating. Towards the end of the 20th century, the machine began to tremble, first sideways, then lengthwise, for no apparent reason. This alarmed Troll. He brought out cement and grappling irons just in case. But fortunately, these weren't needed. Instead of jumping its moorings, the machine settled down and soon had left the 20th century far behind. Civilizations came and went thereafter in 50,000-year intervals. Was that an Easter egg left out for the World War? 20th century? Came and went thereafter in 20,000 year intervals. These were the fully intelligent beings from whom Troll himself stemmed. Spool upon spool of computerized history was filled and ejected into storage bins. Soon there were so many spools that even if you stood up at the top of the machine with high-powered binoculars, you wouldn't see the end of them. And all to construct some versifier. Okay, where was I? But then, such is the way of scientific fanaticism. At last the programs were ready. All that remained was to pick out the most applicable, else the electropoet's education will take several million years at the very least. During the next 2 weeks, Troll fed general instructions into his future electropoet, then set up all the necessary logic circuits, emotive elements, semantic centers. He was about to invite Cleopatra to attend a trial run, but thought better of it and started the machine himself. It immediately proceeded to deliver a lecture on the grinding of crystallographical surfaces as an introduction to the study of submolecular magnetic anomalies. Troll bypassed half the logic circuits and made the emotive more electromotive. The machine sobbed, went into hysterics, then finally said, blubbering terribly, what a cruel, cruel world this was. Troll intensified the semantic fields and attached the strength of character component. The machine informed him that from now on, he would carry out its every wish, and to begin with, add 6 floors to the 9 it already had, so it could better meditate upon the meaning of existence. Troll installed a philosophical throttle instead. The machine fell silent and sulked. Only after endless pleading and cajoling was he able to get it to recite something. I had a little froggy that appeared to exhaust its repertoire. Troll adjusted, modulated, expostulated, disconnected, ran checks, reconnected, reset, did everything he could think of, and the machine presented him with a poem that made him thank heaven Cleopatra wasn't there to laugh. Imagine simulating the whole universe from scratch, not to mention civilization in every particular, and to end up with such dreadful doggerel. Troll put in 6 cliche filters, but they snapped like matches. He had to make them out of pure corundum steel. This seemed to work, so he jacked the semanticity up all the way, plugged in an alternating rhyme generator, which nearly ruined everything since the machine resolved to become a missionary among the destitute tribes on far-flung planets. But at the very last minute, just as he was ready to give up and take a hammer to it, Troll was struck by an inspiration. Tossing out all the logic circuits, he replaced them with self-regulating, ego-centripetal narcissisters. The machine simpered a little, whimpered a little, laughed bitterly, complained of an awful pain on its 3rd floor, said that in general it was fed up, though life was beautiful, but men were such beasts, and how sorry they'd all be when it was dead and gone. Then it asked for pen and paper. Troll sighed with relief, switched it off, and went to bed. The next morning, he went to see Clepatius. Clepatius, hearing that he was invited to attend the debut of Troll's electronic bar, dropped everything and followed. So eager was he to be an eyewitness to his friend's humiliation. Look at this. This is a poet. This is a freaking amazing book. Troll let the machine warm up first, kept the power low, ran up the metal stairs several times to take readings. The machine was like the engine of a giant steamer, galleried with rows of rivets, dials, and valves on every tire. Till finally, satisfied with all the dismal places where they ought to be, he said yes, it was ready now, and why not start with something simple? Later, of course, when the machine had gotten the feel of it, Clepatius could ask it to produce poetry on absolutely whatever topic he liked. Now, the potentiometers indicated the machine's lyrical capacitance was charged to maximum, and Troll, so nervous his hands were shaking, threw the master switch. A voice, slightly husky but remarkably vibrant and bewitching, said, Flotisticorish, Romo Triglev, Floof. Is that it? Clepatius after pause, inquired Clepatius after pause, extremely polite. Troll only bit his lip, gave the machine a few kicks of current, and tried again. This time the voice came through much more clearly. It was a thrilling baritone, solemn, yet intriguingly sensual. Pivs ote moelan gumin goats, unta yun forli puzenje. Confire an zur oats, bitter de fulos bukrblu. Am I missing something? Said Clepatius, calmly watching a panic-stricken Troll struggling at the controls. Finally, Troll waved his arms in despair, dashed clattering several flights up the metal stairs, got down on all fours, and crawling to the machine through a trapdoor, he hammered away inside, swearing like a maniac, tightened something, pried at something, crawled out again, and ran frantically to another tier. At long last, he let out a cry of triumph, threw a burnt tube over his shoulder. It bounced off the railing and fell to the floor, shattering at the feet of Clepatius. But Troll didn't bother to apologize. He quickly put in a new tube, wiped his hands on the chamois cloth, and hollered down for Clepatius to try it now. The following words rang out. Markles, fent on silpen tree. Blockers, 3 of feeding. Markles, what his lips came to tea. In Thai pantry dreaming? Well, that's an improvement, shouted Troll, not entirely convinced. That last line particularly, did you notice? If this is all you have to show me, said Clepatius, the very soul of politeness. Damn, said Troll, and again disappeared inside the machine. There was a fierce banging and clanging, the sputtering of shorted wires, and the muttering of an even shorter temper. Then Troll stuck his head out of a trapdoor on the third story and yelled, Try it. Clepatius complied. The electronic board shuddered from stem to stern and began. Oft in that witless shallot all begone, where whilom saw the mossy sappertard, and you were wont to bong. Troll yanked out a few cables in a fury, something rattled and whizzed, the machine fell silent. Clepatius laughed so hard he had to sit on the floor. Then suddenly, as Troll was rushing back and forth, there was a crackle, a clack, and the machine with perfect poise said, The petty and the small are overcome with gall, when genius, having faltered, fails to fall. Clepatius too, I ween, will turn the deepest green to hear such flaws from Troll's machine. Ooh. There you are, an epigram. An epigram. I need to have a dictionary so that I can look up words. What's an epigram? Pithy saying or remark, expressing an idea in a clever and amusing way. That's good. Where is it? Laughed Troll, racing down metal stairs and flinging himself delightedly into his colleague's arms. Clepatius, quite taken back, was no longer laughing. What? He said. That's nothing. Besides, you had it all set up beforehand. Set up? Oh, it's quite obvious. The ill-disguised hostility, the poverty of thought, the crudeness of execution. Alright, then ask it something else. Whatever you like. Go on. What are you waiting for, afraid? Just a minute, said Clepatius, annoyed. He was trying to think of a request as difficult as possible, aware that any argument on the quality of the words that the machine might be able to produce would be hard, if not impossible, to settle either way. Suddenly, he brightened and said, Have it compose a poem about a haircut, but lofty, noble, tragic, timeless, full of flow, treachery, retribution, quiet heroism in the face of certain doom. 6 lines cleverly rhymed, and every word beginning with the letter S. And why not throw in a full exposition of the general theory of nonlinear automata while you're at it, growled Troll. You can't give it such idiotic, but he didn't finish. A melodious voice filled the hall with the following. Seduced, shaggy Samson snored. She scissored shot, solely shot, soon shackled slave Samson's side, silently scheming, silently seeking some savage, spectacular suicide. Well, what do you say to that? Asked Drill, his arms folded proudly, but Cleopatra was already shouting. Now all in, astonished, trochaic hexameter about an old cyclotron who kept 16 artificial mistresses, blue and radioactive, had 4 wings, 3 purple pavilions, 2 lacquer chests, each containing exactly 1,000 medallions bearing the likeness of Tsar Murkidog the Headless. Grinding gleeful gears, Geronto Garden grabbed, giggling gynecobal 60 golems, began the machine, but Troll leapt to the console, shut off the power, and turned, defending the machine with his body. Enough, he said, hoarse with indignation. How dare you waste such a great talent on such drivel? Either give it decent poems to write, or I call the whole thing off. What? Those aren't decent poems? Protested Cleopatra. Certainly not. I did not build a machine to solve ridiculous crossword puzzles. That's hack work, not great art. Just give it any topic, as difficult as you like. Cleopatra thought some more. Finally, he nodded and said, very well, let's have a love poem, lyrical, pastoral, and expressed in the language of pure mathematics. Tensor algebra mainly, with little topology and higher calculus if need be, but with feeling, you understand, in the cybernetic spirit. Love and tensor algebra? Have you taken leave of your senses? Troll began but stopped, for his electronic bard was already declaiming. This is one of the most beautiful poems I've ever read. Come, let us hasten to a higher plane, where dyads tread the fairy fields of men, their indices becked from one to come mingle in an endless Markov chain. Come, every frustrum belongs to be a cone, and every vector dreams of matrices. Hark to the gentle gradient of the breeze, it whispers of a more ergodic zone. In Riemann, Hilbert, or in Banach space, let superscript and subscript go their ways. Our asymptotes no longer out of phase, we shall encounter counting face to face. I grant thee random access to my heart. Thou shalt tell me all the constants of thy love, and so we two shall all love's lemmas prove, and in our bound partition never part. For what did Cauchy know, or Christoffel, or Fourier, or any Boole or Euler, wielding their compasses, their pens and rulers of thy supernal sinusoidal spell? Cancel me not, for what then shall remain? Abscisses, mantises, modules, merge, a root or two, a torus and a node, the inverse of my verse, a null domain, ellipse of bliss, converge, O ellipse divine. The product of our scalars is defined. Cyberiad draws nigh, and the skew mind cuts capers like a happy harrowsign. I see the eigenvalue in thine eye. I hear the tenor tensor in thy sigh. Bernali would have been content to die, had he but known such. A squared cos 2 theta. This is so beautiful. This concluded the poetic competition, since Cleopatra suddenly had to leave, saying he would return shortly with more topics of the machine, but he never did, afraid that in doing he might give Troll more cause to boast. Troll, of course, let it be known that Cleopatra had fled in order to hide his envy and chagrin. Cleopatra meanwhile spread the word that Troll had more than one screw loose on the subject of the so-called mechanical versifier. Not much time went by before news of Troll's computer laureate reached the genuine, that is, the ordinary poets. Deeply offended, they resolved to ignore the machine's existence. A few, however, were curious enough to visit Troll's electronic bard in secret. It received them courteously in a hall pile high with closely written paper, for it worked day and night without pause. Now, these poets were all avant-garde, and Troll's machine wrote only in the traditional manner. Troll, no connoisseur of poetry, had relied heavily on the classics in setting up its program. The machine's guests jeered and left in triumph. The machine was self-programming, however, and in addition had a special ambition amplifying mechanism with a glory-seeking circuits, and very soon a great change took place. Its poems became difficult, ambiguous, so intricate and charged with meaning that they were totally incomprehensible. When the next group of poets came to mock and laugh, the machine replied with an improvisation that was so modern it took their breath away, and the second poem seriously weakened a certain sonneteer who had 2 state awards to his name, not to mention a statue in the city park. After that, no poet could resist the fatal urge to cross lyrical poets with Troll's electronic bard. They came from far and wide, carrying trunks and suitcases full of manuscripts. The machine would let each challenger recite, instantly grasp the algorithm of his verse, and use it to compose an answer in exactly the same style, only 220 to 347 times better. The machine quickly grew so adept at this that it could cut down a first-class rhapsodist with no more than 1 or 2 quatrains. But the worst of it was, all the third-rate poets emerged unscathed. Being third-rate, they did not know good poetry from bad and consequently had no inkling of their crushing defeat. One of them, True, broke his leg when, on the way out, he tripped over an epic poem the mission had just completed. A prodigious work beginning with the words, "Arms and machines I sing, that, forged by fate, and haughty Homer's unrelenting hate, expelled and exiled, left the train shore." The true poets, on the other hand, were decimated by Troll's electronic bar, though it never laid a finger on them. First, Aeneid's Elegiacs, then two modernists committed suicide, leaping off a cliff that unfortunately happened to lie hard by the road leading from Troll's place to the nearest train station. There were many poet protest states, demonstrations, demands that the machine be served an injunction to cease and desist. But no one else appeared to care. In fact, magazine editors generally approved. Troll's electronic bard, writing under several thousand different pseudonyms at once, had a poem for every occasion to fit whatever length might be required, and of such high quality that the machine would be torn from hand to hand by eager readers. On the street, no one could see enraptured faces, bemused smiles. Sometimes one could see enraptured faces, bemused smiles, sometimes even hear a quiet sob. Everyone knew the poems of Troll's electronic bard. The air rang with its delightful rhymes. Not infrequently, those citizens of a greater sensitivity, struck by a particularly marvelous metaphor or assonance, would actually fall into a faint. But this colossus of inspiration was prepared even for that eventuality. It would immediately supply the necessary number of frustrated vandals. Troll himself had no little trouble in connection with his invention. The classicists, generally elderly, were fairly harmless. They confined themselves to throwing stones through his windows and smearing the sides of his house with an unmentionable substance. But it was much worse with the younger poets. One, for example, as powerful in his body as his verse was in imagery, beat Troll to a pulp. And while the constructor lay in the hospital, events marched on. Not a day passed without a suicide or a funeral. Picket lines formed around the hospital. One could hear gunfire in the distance. Instead of manuscripts in their suitcases, more and more poets were bringing rifles to defeat Troll's electronic bard. But the bullets merely bounced off its calm exterior. After his return from the hospital, Troll, weak and desperate, finally decided one night to dismantle the homeostatic Homer he had created. This is fucking awesome. But when he approached the machine, limping slightly, it noticed the pliers in his hand and the grim glitter in his eye, and delivered such an eloquent, impassioned plea for mercy that the constructor burst into tears, threw down his tools, and hurried back to his room, wading through new works of genius, a notion of paper that filled the hall chest high from end to end and rustled incessantly. The following month, Troll received a bill for the electricity consumed by the machine and almost fell off his chair. If only he could have consulted his old friend Clopacius. But Clopacius was nowhere to be found, so Troll had to come up with something by himself. One dark night, he unplugged the machine, took it apart, loaded it onto a ship, flew to a certain small asteroid, and there assembled it again, giving it an atomic pile for its source of creative energy. Then he sneaked home, but that wasn't the end of it. The electronic bard, deprived now of the possibility of having its masterpieces published, began to broadcast them on all wavelengths, which soon sent the passengers and crews of passing rockets into states of stanzaic stupefaction. And those more delicate souls were seized with severe attacks of aesthetic ecstasy besides. Having determined the cause of this disturbance, the Cosmic Fleet Command issued Troll an official request for the immediate termination of this device, which was seriously impairing the health and well-being of all travelers. At that point, Troll went into hiding, so they dropped a team of technicians on the asteroid to gag the machine's opportunity. It overwhelmed them with a few ballots, however, and the mission had to be abandoned. Deaf technicians were sent next, but the machine employed pantomime. After that, there began to be talk of an eventual punitive expedition of bombing the electropoid in the submission. But just then, some ruler from a neighboring star system came, bought the machine, and hauled it off, asteroid and all, to his kingdom. Now, Troll could appear in public again and breathe easy. True, lately there have been supernovae exploding on the southern horizon, the like of which no one had ever seen before, and there were rumors that this had something to do with poetry. According to one report, that same ruler, moved by some strange whim, had ordered his astro engineers to connect the electronic bard to a constellation of white supergiants. Oh my god. Thereby transforming each line of verse into a stupendous solar prominence. Thus, the greatest poet in the universe was able to transmit its thermonuclear creations to all the illimitable reaches of space at once. But even if there were any truth to this, it was all too far away to bother Troll, who vowed by everything that was ever held sacred, never again to make a cybernetic model of the muse. Fuck. That's how you write a fucking book. It's fucking amazing. All right, too tired. Let's meet in the next reading. Bye bye.